Welcome to episode 43 of the Whatnauts Review Show. Every week we pick a story and we talk about it. Could be a TV show, a movie, an anime, a manga, a comic book, an audio drama, all kinds of entertainment. We watch it, read it, listen to it, etc. And then we come back here and we talk about it. My name is Melissa Wilkinson and I am joined by my co-captain Kyle Springer.
That's me. What up?
It is you. Kyle, how are you today?
Down. The system is down. The system is still chugging along on my computer. We were talking about that on the captain's log the other day. My computer's been acting strange, so I need to look into that. Thankfully, our video is working this week again.
Yeah, good. It better.
So, yeah. How are you?
I'm good. It is, as we record this, the big game day. And
yes,
I don't...
the Puppy Bowl.
Yes, that's what I'm paying attention to. So as soon as we're done here, I'm going to make me some snacks and I'm going to go watch the Puppy Bowl. And then during, like, the real football game, when nobody's going to be out anywhere, I'm going to the mall. And there's going to be, like, I'm going to get a good parking space. There's not going to be any lines. Just me in the mall.
Christmas shopping done. It'll be great.
In February, yes.
Yeah. Fantastic. So what are we talking about today, Melissa?
We're talking about something that is as cute as puppies, pretty much. This is the 2007 TV series Pushing Daisies, created by Bryan Fuller. We watched the first season of this, which was 9 episodes.
Yeah.
It's a really fun show. This was something I watched while it was on, and I've been meaning to revisit for years, and finally, you picked this one. So I was able to sit down and do that, and it was a really fun rewatch for me. And this was the first time you saw it, right?
Yes, this was my first time watching it. I had heard good things. It's one of those shows that you hear like TV fanatics talk about all the time and be like, it was genius, it was so good, I don't know why it only got 2 seasons. And yeah, it was just one that, like, I always hear about this thing, I just don't know what it's talking about. So you did your round of kind of Valentine's Day stuff.
Yeah.
I think I'm gonna be pitching some more Valentine's related stuff after this, so we each have a turn doing some romance stuff. But yeah, it was just like, now is my chance. I can watch this.
Yeah, this is an important watch, I think. It's like a real interesting corner of the television landscape, and I think it's definitely worth somebody's time to go watch this weird thing that TV tried to do in the mid-2000s, and it worked in our hearts.
Yes, I think it still would work.
Yeah, I think it might work even better today.
Probably. It's one of those things we try and recommend stuff. Hey, if you liked Pushing Daisies, go watch these things. And sometimes it's hard to come up with stuff. Just because we try and get a range of stuff that people know and is popular, like Mission Impossible, to stuff that, like, not very many people know about or is a little more obscure. And so it's like, what can I recommend for that? This one, though, I instantly knew. I was like, I have 2 things that, no, Melissa is falling apart. But I instantly had 2 things. I was like, I know exactly what this is like, and I can recommend some stuff easily.
Yeah, it's got, like, quite a creative pedigree behind it that led me to some neat recommendations. But Kyle, what is the show actually about?
So the show follows this young boy, and for most of the show, adult man named Ned. Ned finds out that he has the power to bring dead things back to life by touching them.
Yes.
He also learns that if he touches them again, they die again.
Yeah.
And they stay dead for good.
Yep, he can touch something and it's alive for a minute, and then if it stays alive, something else has to die in its place. And if he ever touches that thing again, it's permanently dead. Yeah, it's got a little bit of rules to it.
But the main crux of the story is that when he's an adult, he ends up kind of becoming somewhat of a business partner with the private detective who wants to solve these murder cases, and so he uses this guy's power to wake the dead people back up, find out who killed them, and then he touches them again, and they go back to being dead. And then the story kind of begins when he sees the murder of his childhood sweetheart, or he doesn't see the murder, but he finds out that his childhood sweetheart has been murdered. So they go to do their thing and wake her up and see who did it. And he's like, "What if you didn't have to be dead? What if we just kept you alive?" And so they do. And his childhood sweetheart is alive, and they kind of have to figure out how to do that while still solving mysteries and running a pie restaurant and falling in love without touching, because if he touches her again, she'll die. And so it seems kind of morbid at first, of like, oh, this guy can touch dead things and all of that stuff. But it ends up being this really sweet rom-com. It's very wacky, very whimsical, a lot of bright colors and stuff like that. Certain things also like remind me of Dr. Seuss in like, it's that kind of whimsical.
Like, you will get characters that have like times, super cutesy alliterative names.
Yeah, so it's a wild ride. Definitely. Did I miss anything in the
that's the main part of it. It's a romantic comedy where they solve murders, and there's a pie restaurant, and occasionally there's singing.
Yes, there in season 1 there's like 2 times where they like break out into song.
2 or 3 little musical numbers.
Yeah.
That too. There's a lot in this show. It's packed full like a big tall pie.
Big fat pie. Yum. So I have to say I'm not the type of guy to watch a bunch of romance stuff. I'm not super into musicals. Melissa, all of this is more your forte.
Yeah, this is exactly Melissa the show.
But I really loved this show.
Good, it was really glad.
Good. It was fantastic. So even if you think you might not like it, or if you kind of want to recommend this to someone, or if you liked it and you want to watch it with someone who you're like, I don't know, maybe they won't like it because it's kind of rom-com-y, the show is still good. It's actually funny. So it's not just like cheesy won't they stuff.
It's really sharply written. It's very well constructed. This show was created by Bryan Fuller, who's had quite a list of television products.
He's had a couple. I know he worked on Hannibal after this, and then American Gods, which are 2 very different shows than what this is.
Did he also work on 6 Feet Under?
I don't know. I don't remember the name on 6 Feet Under. I didn't like 6 Feet Under.
Oh, I've never really seen it. I just know this guy already had like a couple hits under his belt, and then he did Pushing Daisies, and people are excited for it, but also like, what is this? This is weird.
I'll bring 6 Feet Under back up once we get into spoiler territory there. But yeah. Anything else we want to say before spoiler alerts?
No, do we want to do our recommendations now?
Yeah, sure. If you want to do recommends.
Because I would say that if you watch Pushing Daisies, which you should, like season 1's just 9 episodes, it's pretty short.
It's streaming for free on CW Seed.
That's where it is.
Yeah, you can. I literally typed in stream Pushing Daisies, and that was the first thing that popped up. So CW Seed.
Okay, I knew it must have been somewhere. I went looking for it on all the major streaming services and I couldn't find it, so I just went and got my brother's DVDs instead, which is also fine.
Is probably better anyways. But yeah.
If you watch this, which you should, and you like the murder mystery part of it the most, but you also like how colorful it is, and you also like that it's full of food, go check out Hannibal. Because Hannibal is like dark Pushing Daisies, dark, sinister Pushing Daisies, but it's still got that like lushness to it, kind of. It's a very different show, but you can definitely tell it's created by the same guy. I watched the first season of it, I think. It's an interesting one. And this show is also executive produced by Barry Sonnenfeld, and he directed the first couple episodes. This is the guy who directed like the Men in Black movies.
Oh, okay.
Which I love, and you can kind of see those in here. Weirdly enough, there's a lot of set design that reminds me of the way the Men in Black sets are done, which is a very specific thing, but it was always one of my favorite parts of those movies. Like, every location they went to was super cool looking.
Those are two things I wouldn't have thought to mention or
this is what I pay attention to, is like rooms people are in. I love a good set decoration.
The room where it happens.
Yes. And he also has been doing that series of Unfortunate Events show for Netflix.
That makes more sense.
And this reminds me of that a lot. Like, really kind of whimsical and offbeat and like a little melancholy, but ultimately kind of like a fun storybook kind of adventure.
Yeah.
But with death in it.
Yeah. Good stuff. For me, I have an audio drama to recommend. Wooden Overcoats.
That's the one I knew it was going to be. Yes.
So this show has a lot of good narration on top of it, and Wooden Overcoats has that same style of narration, and it's a comedy. It's the same type of humor and situational comedy. I think it would be a great fit. But if you are more into like the detective, like murder mystery, each episode is a new case type of thing, iZombie on CW
I've never seen that one.
I fucking love that show. It is great. It's based off a comic book, though, from what I understand. The TV show basically just takes the name, and that's kind of it. But it is about this girl who dies and becomes a zombie and comes back to life, but she can pass as somewhat normal as long as she eats brains. And so she gets a job at a morgue. And she helps to solve murder mysteries because also when she eats other people's brains, she like gets their personality and mannerisms and can see their like last couple like thoughts and stuff like that. So it's this kind of wacky stuff. Like who's the main character gonna be this week? Is she gonna be a pro quarterback on a football team? Is she gonna be a sex worker? Is she gonna be some kind of valley girl? Is she gonna be some hard-boiled detective who's too old for this shit?
So this is like part Quantum Leap and part Chew?
Yeah, kind of.
Wow, I didn't know that's what that show was about.
Yeah, it's fantastic. So I highly recommend those.
Okay.
I don't know if I have any housekeeping besides go like, share, subscribe, sell your soul, tell a friend, hit the bell, do everything you need to do on the social media stuff. I know I have my rigmarole to get you guys to do all of that stuff, but it really does help. Go review us on iTunes. We could absolutely use your help here on twitch.tv/the Whatnauts, which is where you can watch this show live every Sunday, usually at noon Eastern time. This week we are recording it an hour later because Melissa, you had some morning plans.
I had a friend spending the night, and then we had brunch, so we nudged this back a little bit.
There you go. That works. But typically that's every Sunday at 12 noon Eastern time on twitch.tv/the Whatnauts or on the whatnauts.com/live streams. We'd love to have you in the chat with us discussing the books or movies or whatever it is we're talking about week in and week out. We hope you follow along at home. That being said, go follow us on YouTube.
Yeah.
Patreon I'll mention at the end of the show. Let's get on to spoilers.
Let's do it.
Yeah, spoiler alert, party people. From here on out, we are getting into we're sticking our fingers into all sorts of pies.
Yes.
Here with this,
we're digging all kinds of things up.
So yeah, I was pleasantly surprised with this show. I'm
glad. Because I had fond memories of it, but like kind of vague memories of it. Because like I said, this is from 2007, which is a long time ago now. And so my brain just like compressed it down to like the basic facts of the show. But when I watched it again, like, oh, I remember everything now. And it's so good. This was such a nice rewatch for me.
It holds up in a weird way. Like I think there are a lot of like special effects and green screen stuff that did not age very well. But besides like those few mishaps, I mean, I guess they aren't really mishaps, but besides those few exceptions, I think the story of the show holds up. The style is so stylized that it can kind of, like I can see it happening now and it looking the exact same. It's this very Dr. Seuss looking. It's not Dr. Seuss all the way. It's like Dr. Seuss dialed back to like 2 or 3 on a scale of 1 to 10. Throw in maybe a little bit of like Wes Anderson color stuff, like and then turn the saturation up.
Yeah, like the visual style of the show is that everything is very colorful and like every space they're in. This show is full of wallpaper. Every place they go to is completely wallpapered. Like Olive's bedroom, she has this intensely patterned like toile wallpaper on all of her walls and on the carpet and on her bedspread. And that's the pattern for her pajamas.
There's a lot going on.
It's chock full of things. It's a delight to watch.
Yeah. But yeah, I was surprised at how funny it was. I thought it was going to get a little bit more into the romance of things, and that's definitely there. It's kind of one of the main themes, but it's not. It is, but it's not a romance. You know, like because they can't physically touch. There's not much they can do with that.
Yeah, and it's
and the
not
will they won't they isn't as like, oh my god, will they or won't they actually?
Yeah,
it's like, well, maybe they'll kiss through plastic wrap.
It's an interesting romance because they are like attached to each other immediately. Like there's no question really of whether or not they're together. Like I think, pretty early on in the series, Ned turns to Chuck and says, "Am I your boyfriend?" And she's like, "Yeah, you're my boyfriend. We're just a different kind of boyfriend-girlfriend relationship." So that's not what the conflict is. The conflict is like both of them are so amped up and they have to like kiss each other through a sheet of saran wrap or like hold each other while they're both wearing full beekeeper suits.
Yeah.
And the conflict is like, are they going to turn to other people for this physical outlet that they cannot have with each other, which is really interesting.
Yeah. So it makes for some good situational comedy too. The whole like making out through the plastic wrap is both hilarious and disgusting at the same time.
And it is a good show to like revisit because this came on when I was like 17 and like I got what it was about, but now as an adult I'm like, boy, what a horny show.
Yeah.
Like,
oh hell yeah, lots of cleavage everywhere. Lots of cleavage.
Because it's just about like there's this undercurrent of just sexual energy underneath a lot of stuff. Like people want to be with each other.
Literally sexual tension.
Yes,
because they can't do it, but they're kind of doing everything they like. They're right up against that line. We'll do everything we can think of to get right to the fence.
Yeah,
and that's it.
Yeah, and then you have Olive with this crush on Ned, and she's like always showing off and like trying to ring him in, and it never works. And I love Olive. Like I remembered really liking Olive, and I love her so much more on this rewatch.
Yeah, she was really funny. She because she also does not. Well, so Ned, because of his power, he's kind of gotten used to not touching people. That's just his thing. Doesn't do hugs, doesn't do all of that stuff, but he can. Like people who are still alive, like he can, like if he wanted to, he could touch Olive. But he's just so like, I have this weird power. I don't want to touch anyone.
Yeah, he's just very closed off and independent and solitary. It's just him and his dog, which he cannot touch. And he has to pet with like a back scratcher or something.
The dog did actually die. And so now he has this dog that he can't pet except for with a back scratcher.
And his pies. And like he uses rotten fruit and he touches the fruit and it becomes like full and plump and juicy and like as ripe as it could be. But then he can't eat it because it would die again in his mouth.
Which I didn't like think about that until he ate the pie at the aunt's house, and I was like, oh yeah. Like I know he said that he can't touch it again. Like that made sense, but I didn't think about it after that. Like, oh, once you make the actual pie, you can't eat your own pie. And so then he has this like minute-long speech of just like, I just have to know when the pie is ready. Like I can't practice.
Yeah.
I mean, I guess he could if he didn't, like if he actually bought fresh stuff, but like it's his trade secret to like have the fruit be at their like most ripe. I guess is what is happening.
He has to bring it back to the dead. He has to bring it back from the dead for it to be better alive than it ever was before it died. For fruit, at least.
So he's just like, I just have to know.
Yeah. There's so many really interesting conflicts and tensions in this show and the way like it uses this magic realism and all these weird rules. And like the murder cases they're in are like, they're not fluffy, but like they're lighter murder cases. They're a little goofy almost. And that's exactly what they should be, because you don't need like serious life and death peril every episode because there's so much other tension already baked into the show. Like, even just knowing like he's making these pies and he can't eat them, it's not a huge conflict, but like you know it and you think about it and it just sort of gives you this internal stress. Like there's a lot going on in the show, and I think they do like pick and choose their moments, and it never gets too melodramatic or anything. Like even in the season finale where Ned has to confess to Chuck, like, I accidentally killed your dad because I kept my mom alive too long. And this was when I was first discovering my powers, and I didn't know, oh, if you keep a dead body alive, somebody else has to die in its place. So he confesses this to her, and she's like, I get it. I just need to be mad at you for a little while. And like they're reconciled by the end of the episode, which feels weak like when I'm just describing it, but it works because just the way they're looking at each other and they're both so sad and they're both so tense. Like the show gave itself everything it needed right at the beginning, and it just uses that so well throughout it. And it doesn't need to put a lot of extra drama into it.
Yeah.
Like it's really well constructed from the start.
Yeah, it's an interesting thing because he killed her father on accident, but when she's a child, she that same night, you know, his mom dies. So when they're kids, she understands it as, hey, both of our parents just died. like, I understand you there. But then when they're adults and they're in the situation they're in now, it's like, oh, I understand why your mom died now. She died before, you saved her,
Yeah.
and you didn't know, and so she, in that time you kept her alive. That's when my dad died. You didn't know that was the connection. That was your first big hint at, like, hey, something, just if you bring someone else back to life, someone else is gonna have to take their place,
Yeah.
But he hadn't really put two and two together yet, and again, because he didn't know that if his mom kissed him good night, that she would die
Goodbye, Mom.
Again there. And so she's now in the same spot of, like, I can't kiss you good night.
Yeah.
But that's what your mom did, and you guys didn't know, and now I know. So I understand.
Yeah.
So weird stuff. Weird relationship. Have you ever seen the movie Amelie? I believe that's how you
Yes. Yeah, I did see that once.
Pronounce it.
Yes.
I haven't seen that, but I know that movie was a big inspiration for this film.
Makes sense. I can see that.
Actually, I read that on the Wikipedia page. Hell yeah, well researched. No, so the only thing I know about Amelie is that, like, there's the girl and there's, like, bright yellows and reds and stuff. Like, it's the saturation. Which is exactly what this show has. There are bright yellows, there's bright reds, like really, really deep blues, and that just kind of helps add to the overall I would say excitement, but that's not the right word. But one of the other things it does, it just gives this life.
Yes, everything's so
show.
Vibrant.
Yeah, which is I think exactly what he does with the fruit.
Mm-hmm.
Can you hear my roommate in the back there? Yeah, which is I think exactly what he does with the pies when he touches them and brings them back to life. Like that, it brings them back to their most vibrant. Which is kind of strange because that's not really how it works with the humans. But I guess they are, like, immediately, like, back, like, hey, what's going on? How are you? Like, they don't skip a beat. So there is not
it's
this,
not like they have to, like, wake up. They're just instantly like, hello, yes, here I am, another talking human being. Hi, how are you? Like,
why am I laying down on this cold metal sheet? Why am I naked?
Everybody that he wakes up is instantly like, okay, here's the deal. I have things to tell you. Like, they ask them questions. They're like, oh, yeah, well, I know. Well, I don't know who killed me, but I know how I was killed.
Yeah. So I think that matches the show really well. You mentioned the set design, just having so much visually going on. Whether it's these, like, wacky, like, Oompa Loompa looking characters and set design stuff.
Well, not that intense, but, like, there's the Candy Factory episode, and they are, like, extremely brightly colored, uniformed, like, super coiffed hair, like, big jewelry, like, everything is larger than life. Everything is chock full of, like,
from School of Rock. And he walks in, he's like, hey guys, did you hear about the new candy store down the street? Gee, I sure like candy. You all should like candy too. And he just has the biggest smile, and it's so cheesy. And it works for the show. It's so fun.
Everything is the most that it can be, and it's like when you're baking. To make something sweeter, you put a little bit of salt in there. And the show always has the right amount of salt. It's got the cynicism of, like, Emerson or, like, Aunt Lily. Like, there's enough, like, kind of cynicism and skepticism just, like, lightly sprinkled over the top to just sort of amp up everything else's positivity and energy. Like it's balanced really well. Like it's incredibly sweet, but it's not like toothache sweet. It knows how to do it.
Yeah. Yeah, cuz some of the murder mysteries are pretty gruesome.
Yeah. Yeah.
They're still absolutely wacky. But I'm thinking of the candy shop one.
Oh yeah, where he drowns in taffy.
Yeah, and when they bring him back to life, he's just like this pink like can't even speak because there's this taffy like deep down in his throat. It's disgusting.
Yeah,
I think it's the airplane one where he crashes through the windshield and he has all of the like he has all of the glass stuck in his face. It's like, ugh, that does not look good.
Yeah, I think the most gruesome one is that woman who gets burned because there is a scratch and sniff book where when she scratches the little sniff pad, it ignites and explodes in her face. Just great. There's so many like really creative murders. Like nobody's ever like just stabbed in this show.
Yeah. And the ones who are stabbed in really weird ways.
Yeah,
like Joel McHale has an episode where he's a dog breeder and he's poisoned by one of his multiple wives. And he spills it and he slips and he falls on his like dog's comb, which is sharp on one end, and then he tries to get back up and slips again and stabs himself again, and just multiple times does the same thing over and over again. It's just like, that is a terrible way to go.
This is such a storybook tale where you can do things like have a giant pie restaurant shaped like a pie, or make a living out of being a synchronized swimmer dressed as a mermaid. Like things like that are completely viable life options. It's a storybook world, but there's also this like real undercurrent of pain. Like there is some gruesome violence in the show, kind of masked under all of this like whimsicalness and like, oh yeah, when you think about it, like repeatedly like slipping and getting stabbed in the stomach, even if it is by like a decorative ornamental dog breeding, dog grooming comb. Like that's, it's visceral. This is a very visceral show. Like everything that looks beautiful, there's also stuff that looks like, it looks painful. It looks disgusting. Like the rotten fruit is rotten. And it makes you feel, it's a very potent sensory show.
That's a good word. Yeah. Very sensory indeed. Did you have a favorite case?
I don't know.
Or a favorite episode, maybe, instead?
They're all really fun. I liked the one with the horses. That was a neat one.
The one with the horses was an interesting one for sure. To me, that case seemed to be one that didn't fit as much. That one seemed more Scooby-Doo like, because it have those. It was like the phantom horse rider that is, it looks like some knight in, the Black Knight in his demonish riding robes or whatever the hell he's wearing.
Yeah, it is a very like Scooby-Doo kind of villain.
Yeah. But then the story behind it is it's more with the show.
Yeah, it does have that, like, it's a world of like horse jockeys, which are like kind of a whimsical, cute thing. Like they turn them into lawn ornaments for a reason, I guess. And it's so preposterous. Like the guy, he breaks his legs and they put his horse's legs on him. Like he's just walking around on horse legs.
And that's why he's so tall.
It's bonkers. And it's such a ridiculous premise, but it still has that personal story to it because it's all of Olive's backstory, and you really like feel for her, like, oh, that's who you are, and that's how you got to where you are today, and you have this whole secret life you literally like boxed up in a safety deposit box and you don't touch anymore.
Yeah. I think for me, My favorite one was I want to say it was the scratch and sniff one, because that's the one with the sewer dude, right?
Yes.
I really like that character,
and that's
and
something
I want more of him in season 2. Hopefully they put more of him in there.
I think he's back. Like, I had forgotten a lot of the kind of ongoing mythology of the show beyond just like, this is the magic and this is how it works. I forgot that Paul Rubens shows up as this like scent expert who like meets Chuck and smells like, oh, there's something different about
The
you.
smell of death.
Yeah. And so he's trying, like, he's narrowing in on, were you dead once? Because this smell can't be anything else. Like, I forgot about him, and I forgot about like the mystery of, oh, just like Ned wondering like where his dad went. And like it turns out that Chuck's mom, she never really had a mom. It was her aunt, air quotes, that was really her mom the whole time. And that ongoing stuff I had forgotten about. And that was neat to be surprised with it again.
Yeah. Ned's story is really sad, where he's just kind of abandoned. But yeah, like I like, I mean, I'm always one for a more connected story.
I like it, yeah.
Monster of the Week can get boring very fast, or detective case of the week, in terms of this show, can kind of get boring. And it is when they bring in these recurring characters, like, oh, here's the guy that recognized the scent of death on you, and now he's back. He's like, oh, so I took a shaving of the dog's hair because he also has the same smell. So I'm wondering if by studying him, I can figure out what's up with you. But I could only get so far with that, so I need your, And there is this overall kind of mystery, or I guess not mystery to us as viewers, but to some of these characters figuring it out. Or Olive trying to figure out, who is this new woman? Why aren't they making out? Because they sure love each other.
Yeah, it is. That's again more tension that the show like baked right into itself in the beginning. Like, the audience is going to know a lot of things that the characters don't know, and you're going to watch them try and figure it out.
Yeah, which is, it can be a lot of fun. I guess that's a form of irony.
Yeah.
Comedic irony, I guess, in this sense. But yeah, like I like those, I guess, steps forward that the show takes. Like, I want more of that. I want more of Olive trying to figure out who Chuck really is and what happened to Chuck. More of this sewer dweller mole man type of character, to kind of figure things out. But then I mean, I feel like he will figure things out and then be like, I like you, I'm gonna keep your secret because I like you. And then somehow help, like I want to see him continue to help them, right?
Yeah. The show does. I want
to see, what was the detective's name?
Oh, Emerson?
Yeah. I want to see more progression with him, because he's more there to just be the voice of reason for most of it. Just like, oh, don't bother me with this wacky shit,
Like, he does. There's so much personal drama going on around him, and he's like, please, I just want to eat a slice of pie and solve this murder and get the reward money and keep that cycle going.
Yeah.
He's so great. There is more of him in season 2, I remember, because in the season finale, it's revealed like he has a daughter out there that he's not close with. And so in season 2, you kind of find out who she is and where she went and like what their relationship is. Yeah, this show does a good.
I was just gonna say, he's a main character, but he's the one I feel like we got the least of.
Yeah, and that's kind of
being there all the time.
Yeah, that's kind of the point, because like he's not a sharer like everybody else is. Like, he's there to do the job, and that's it. And like, he's a man with a lot of passions, but like, Like, he loves knitting, but he doesn't talk about how he loves knitting. The
And
narrator's just there to tell us. Yeah. I love that he loves knitting and pop-up books. Like, even, like, the grizzled, old, sarcastic detective loves knitting and pop-up books in this world. That's the kind of world it is.
Yeah. Yeah, the scenes when they're like they're like in the windmill episode,
yes,
when they're dragging out the culprit and he's just sitting there with the big cigar in his mouth and he's counting money as they're, you know, you're under arrest, blah 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 blah. He's just like, I got me some money, 100, 200, 300, you know.
And then later he goes home and he's knitting mittens.
Yeah, he's this like sleazy private eye who's super private about his own life, but when he goes home, yeah, he's just sitting there knitting, reading pop-up books. It's great.
Yeah, I remember that you learn more about him, and this show is really good at introducing like little recurring characters outside of how good the main cast is, and how like the episodic murder of the week characters can be fun. Like I think there's more of the medical examiner in season 2, if I remember correctly.
He's fantastic,
or even if
too.
There's not more, like he keeps doing the same thing of like, you guys are up to something.
Because at the end of this, he kind of demanded rent, right? He was like, I know you guys are doing something you're not supposed to. So...
But it doesn't seem bad enough for me to stop. So if you pay me off, like, this is going to be fine. We'll have a working relationship.
Yeah. Which and he has the ugly...
Oh, I love
Christmas
that
sweater that his niece made, and Emerson just goes, dude, that is a fucking ugly sweatshirt. It's fantastic.
He's fun. I love Molly Shannon as that candy shop owner down the street. I think she comes back, and I love the homeopathic medicine guy. I think she pops up as like a recurring antagonist, just as like a business rival to the pie shop. And I love the homeopathic medicine guy. I forgot about him, but the second he appeared back on screen, I'm like, oh yes, you.
This guy.
I like him a lot. And he's like, they have recurring characters for different reasons. Like they have Paul Rubens is there as for like kind of the mystery, like, you know, this you're coming back from the dead, that's so weird, why does that happen? Like he's an antagonist for that, and then Molly Shannon is an antagonist just for like the business side of things, and then Raul Esparza is there for just like he's there to move the social story forward because he's in love with Olive, and Olive doesn't like really figure that out until he's like,
he's the tension for Olive, who has her heart set on trying to get Ned to like her. But the salesman dude also really likes her. My internet just dropped out. We may have to take a short break, and we will be right back.
Awesome. Hello. We are back.
Had a little bit of technical difficulties there. I kind of ended the conversation real fast and was like, okay, we'll be back. We are back now. What happened is our stream, my internet died. I touched it. It came back to life. And now if I touch it again, it'll be dead forever.
Yeah, and if you eat the internet, it's going to taste gross to you.
Yeah, don't eat the internet, Kyle.
Just a big scoop of internet a la mode.
But yeah, so that
a la modem. I'm sorry, I couldn't let that pass me by.
Great, thank you, Fate, for Melissa's modem joke. So that took a couple minutes. I don't remember what I was talking about. So we're just gonna
start fresh.
Start with a new question.
What? I've got one for you.
Go for it, Melissa.
What did you think about the musical aspects of this show? Because those were actually, I remember it being more musical than it was.
Yeah.
So
I was expecting more.
Yeah. I think because I talked that up because I remembered it so well.
Yeah, you are a fan of musicals, so that makes sense that would be something that sticks out in your mind. I didn't hate them. I don't know if they were necessary though.
Yeah, it is like,
if that makes sense. And I did immediately recognize what's her name from Little Shop of
Ellen Green.
Horrors. Yeah, I was like, oh, it's that girl.
I remember
it's
when
suddenly
I told
Seymour.
when I told you about that movie, I'm like, it's got the lady from Pushing Daisies, and you're like, I haven't seen Pushing Daisies. I'm like, okay, well now here's two things you have to watch.
There you go.
Yeah, I don't. It does feel like that might be the one spot where they are kind of gilding the lily about it. Like, this seems like a show that could definitely have a musical episode.
Yes.
It's that kind of show, but instead it has like a number here and there, and they're not
but
like
sometimes
big...
the narration rhymes as well.
Yeah.
So I mean, so that stuff is in there. I think it works within the world.
Mm-hmm.
I think creatively, because there were literally only 2 times it happened, one was super short, it felt odd. It felt out of place, which is strange to say in a world that is so odd.
Yeah, it seems like the sort of thing that should either be done like once with like really great meaning behind it. And the times they use it, it's like when Olive sings Hopelessly Devoted to You, it's really sweet. Like, it's a really great expression of her character. And it's a nice number. And I like that she keeps getting like interrupted. Like, the guy comes in to like, you know, hi, I'm your floor waxer. I'm here to wax the floors. I like that she's trying to sing this big number about no matter what happens, even if I face all these obstacles, I'm still going to be in love with you. And she keeps facing these obstacles to singing the song.
Yeah.
Like, they're great scenes individually. But it does seem like the sort of thing that should be like, if you're going to do it, maybe turn it up to 11, like the way the rest of the show operates.
Yeah, exactly. I think because the second one that the big one that plays in my mind was kind of the end of the episode, and it was there's a lot of TV shows that do that like montage scene at the end, and there's some kind of song playing and stuff like that. This show did its own version of that by doing it as a musical number, like having the characters actually sing it. So I think in terms of that, it's like, yeah, something like that is kind of to be expected. But again, I don't think they did it enough for me to feel like it felt familiar within the world.
Yeah, I wonder if the cast just wound up with a couple like famous songstresses in it, and he's like, well, I can't have Kristen Chenoweth and Ellen Green and have them not sing. I am intrigued to the background of it. Like I said, like, it feels like it fits in, but like, no, fill out that space, like, really. It's like you're trying to fit a puzzle piece in there, and it's the right shape puzzle piece, but it's like too small. Like, it's the same cookie cutter size puzzle piece, but from a different puzzle. You're like, that goes there, but like, it needs to fit in bigger.
Yeah. What is this? A center for ants? Yeah, like I think I would have liked it more if they did an entire episode.
Yeah.
Of that. I think that would have been really cool. And I think I would have been fine with just one. You know, it's not something that needed to be recurring or have multiple musical episodes. But just like Community did the paintball episodes for a while, or Flash and Supergirl did their musical episodes. They only had one in each show, but if you watch them all back to back, it's one big long storyline, you know. It's a crossover. You know, something like that, where it was just more of it but contained, I felt like would have served the show a lot better.
And I think that also would have worked for, there's one opening to an episode. Every episode opens with a flashback to like young Ned, which is also something I didn't remember. Like I remember the pilot being set up like that, but I forgot like all the check-ins with him back at the boarding school.
Which I liked those.
Yeah. There's one of those that I think is entirely in rhyme. And I'm like, you guys should just, instead of doing this, just do an entire rhyming episode for everything. Because this seems like absolutely feasible, like creatively and narratively. Like, oh, of course you live in a world where you would just rhyme one day.
I think it was the jockey one. I think it was the one with the horses that the narration rhymed, if I remember correctly. I don't know. What did you think of those flashback or like opening scenes? Here's Ned when he's younger, figuring out his powers and stuff like that.
I didn't really remember them. And this show was full of a lot of things like I didn't remember but was delighted to see again. Like all these recurring characters were great, but like I don't know if this one is as necessary. Like it does a good job of adding to the storybook and like kind of fairy tale feel of everything, and I like them. I just wonder if we need them every single episode. I don't know, especially because this is like kind of an ensemble show and we're only going back to young Ned. If we had young flashbacks to everybody, I'd kind of like to see something like that.
Yeah, something like that might be neat. I think I liked them. And I liked them a lot. I think I want something out of them that I haven't gotten yet.
Yeah, that's it. Like it gives you some character building to Ned, but there's so much more the show needs to do, and to spend like 5 minutes on that at the beginning of every episode, like you know, can we work on somebody else, please?
I kind of want to know what happened to Ned's headgear best friend.
Yes, I loved that one. I really like that he has this one friend that he bonds with at boarding school, and they're gonna go out and frolic like boys and jump in the leaves, but Ned jumps in the leaves and they all come back to life, and his friend like freaks out and runs away, and the narrator says that later in life he justified it to himself as those were just magic leaves. Yeah, and of course this world has one guy out there wandering around like,
magic leaves.
I saw magic leaves once, and I guess that's the truth.
So that's what weed is.
Leaves.
No, but like yeah, like I kind of want to see that character come back. Like I want to see more besides the backstory of like, oh, this is his dad abandoning him. This is, you know, him being separated from Chuck. This is him, you know, like I want to see more of that come back and matter in the present day.
Yeah.
In the sense of, like here's a character from his past that came back and who knows his power, right?
Yeah.
Like here's what happened to his best friend who chalked it up to magic leaves, but is now hearing word about this detective that is solving all of these weird cases, and he's like, I knew that guy. Yeah, that's weird. Those things came back to life. He could solve these cases if he could get the dead people to come back to life and tell them, you know.
That might or might not be a season 2 thing. See, I'm trying to remember what happens in the next season, because I know that there is a lot of the stuff that does carry through and get better fleshed out. And I'm going to like immediately rewatch season 2.
I want that exact thing to happen, but just, you know, something.
Yeah, my brother gave me the DVDs for the entire series, so like I didn't have to, but I am now immediately going to start watching season 2 again, because I have to have this thing as completed as it can be for me now.
I think season 2 is also on CW.
Oh, nice.
I mean, which I guess is the whole show. It got canceled after its second season, right? So R.I.P. Season 2 was 13 episodes, I believe. Season 1 is 9. So that's what, 22, 23, 22 episodes, which is actually not bad. Yeah. So I wanted to talk about this before we kind of wrap up here. The show did get canceled. I do think this show is fantastic.
Yeah.
A lot of people I've heard describe the show as brilliant or genius or stuff like that. And I think I would agree with them, though I think because the show is so formulaic, I can understand why. Like I don't know. Like as much as I want to know more and like, what does Chuck is she gonna find out that her aunt is actually her mom?
Yeah.
What's happening there? Or is there gonna be some magical thing that happens where they can finally make out and get down to business? Like is there gonna be something like that? And I want to know that stuff, but I think also after 9 episodes I'm kind of just fine. Like I was like, that was good. Moving on. But at the same time, yeah, like I also wouldn't mind more episodes too. I think I want them to kick it up a notch and give me a little bit more out of the show than just this case of the week.
This is a show that has been formulaic, but you can see where if it decided to completely do away with the formula, it could, like everything else it has is still plenty to stand on. Yeah.
Yeah. Oddly enough, there was a show, and I think the show was awful. Or if memory serves, the show was awful. There was a superhero related show called The Cape. Have you heard of that? Have you ever heard of that?
I've heard of it, yeah.
I remember I watched it a long time ago, and I think I ended up liking it more than I expected to, but it was still one of those shows that I'm sure if I could go back, that it was awful. But oddly enough, that like this show kind of made me want to go back and watch that just because of how like weird and whimsical it is.
Yeah, this show also made me want to revisit, like, this was on during a period where I was watching a lot of television. And I watched so many things during that period that were there and that were cool for a while, and then they died. And like, if I loved revisiting this, let me go back and watch, like, I don't know, New Amsterdam or something like that. Like, what other canceled shows from my teenage years are really fun to revisit?
So, I guess in the same type of vein, if the show had continued past season 2, like, I guess for me as well, what I'm hoping for in season 2, like where would you want this show to go? Would you want it to change its formula? Would you want them to do more of one thing, less of another?
One thing I was really curious about, and that I don't know if I want this to happen, but I want the characters to at least be as curious about it as I am, which is, if Ned can do this, is there somebody else out there that can do another weird thing? And it doesn't have to get full on X-Men with it, but like, I would like them to brush up against like
an arch nemesis.
Maybe not somebody else with powers, but the potential of, oh, we have this case we can't explain. How do we know this isn't also magic? And maybe it does or doesn't have like a real practical explanation, but I want them to think about it more. Like, what other weird stuff is going on around here that is also a secret?
That would be fun to explore. Yeah, I think I kind of want the less formulaic stuff. I wouldn't mind like 2-part episodes where a case takes longer than,
I'd
40
like a
minutes
big case
to wrap up. I would like a case that hits closer to home.
Yeah.
I think for the characters, like, what if one of the aunts dies, and so it's stuff like that, and they have to just like, I want the cases to tie in more to the plot of or I guess not the plot, but just the character development, the character relationships, and what's going to happen with that.
Yeah, like from case to case, I don't know if they're that much different than each other. like I don't know if they've grown very
Not
much. Like
really.
the like revisiting her past with the horse jockeying like had an effect on Olive.
Sure.
And like the second episode where the magic like the dandelion car, that's a
Yeah.
weird one. Where like they're put in like these body bags and then Ned and Chuck kiss each other through like these plastic bags that they're in. You can tell that like, oh, we can try this in our personal life as well. And we'll just kiss each other through this plastic kitchen wrap. Like I want there to be like some murder that has like a lasting effect on them and that they really like learned something or it affects them in some way.
Yeah.
Like it has some personal stakes to it.
Yeah. Something like that, I think, is what I would want them to explore more. Good stuff. Good stuff. I don't know. I think that's about it for me. That's all I wanted to talk about and say. Did you have any other questions or things you wanted to bring up?
There's so much going on in this show. Like if I don't stop it here, I will have to be talking for another hour about all these weird little jokes because it's so funny too. We didn't talk about very much about how sharp and great the dialogue is.
Yeah, very well written. Just continually witty.
It's so visually great. Like you don't often get shows that have incredible style and substance all in one package, and this has got it.
Yeah, definitely. Well, we already did our recommendations. I guess I did say I would mention 6 Feet Under. So I guess this also goes along the lines of what I would want them to explore. What were you going to say?
Okay, let me just Google it. I think Bryan Fuller also worked on 6 Feet Under, and I thought I spotted like a 6 Feet Under reference in here that I'm gonna have to run past you.
Maybe. I watched it a while back. I watched all 6 seasons, and season 1 was really good, and then I think the show went downhill from
Maybe not
there.
But you've seen, you watched the entirety of it. You saw the finale,
yes.
right?
Yeah.
Okay, maybe he didn't like create it, but he worked on it, or there's some sort of a connection to it.
Maybe he wrote an episode or something.
So I know that in the series finale of 6 Feet Under, it flashes forward and it shows how every character dies. And one of the characters has a stroke, and he's trying to like tell the person he's with like my arm's numb, but it keeps devolving because he's having the stroke, and he's like numb arm, narm, narm. I remember that being like a joke, like I would see on TV blogs. People would bring up narm, and there is the episode with the windmills, and they go to the National Area of Retired Mills, or NARM.
NARM.
And I'm like, is that a reference to 6 Feet Under? Like, did this guy also work on 6 Feet Under, or is it just like, here's a nod to the show I like?
It might be a nod to the show because they deal with a lot of the same subject matter, life and death, right? Which I think the show 6 Feet Under deals with, like they go in depth of like, how do people deal with it? Like, how do they actually deal with that? Do they cope with family members? Do they cope with sex? Do they cope with drugs? Do they lash out in all sorts of different ways? But yeah, like I kind of want not to that extent, but I want a little bit more of that from Pushing Daisies. It's so whimsical, it's so funny and witty that I kind of lose this sense of actual weight to some of these stakes. Which is kind of why I wanted something to hit closer to home. Like I want them to actually deal with this life and death stuff, not just be like, it's magic leaves.
I agree with you. And first of all, I did Google it. Bryan Fuller it didn't seem like he worked on 6 Feet Under. He created Dead Like Me. That's what I'm thinking of. The other premium cable death-based show from around that same time period.
There you go.
Dead Like Me is another show I remember being good and like people talked about while it was on, but now nobody's talking about it.
I've never even heard of it.
That's another recommendation. Check out Dead Like Me. It's a show about a woman who dies in this crazy accident, like space station explodes
like
and all this debris is falling to Earth, and she is knocked dead by the toilet seat from the space station. So it's this crazy sudden death. And when she
a crappy way to go out.
Yeah, and she wakes up, and in her afterlife, she has become a Grim Reaper. And you are a Grim Reaper for other people who died the same way you did. So she is out there reaping the souls of other people that die in crazy freak accidents.
Oh, I was gonna say she has to find someone who died from a space station toilet seat falling to Earth, and
it's the general category of crazy freak accidents. And there's other people like, okay, I died back in the plague. Now I reap victims of, not the plague, but other serious diseases.
Yeah.
Like, there's one episode where they meet a woman who died in the Titanic who's like, yeah, I got nothing to do now because nobody's dying in shipwrecks hardly anymore. I have really slow work days. It's a fun show.
Interesting.
But yeah, I agree with what you're saying. Like, there's so much social tension in the show, which is great. But I wish the death had more of an effect and it did have that gravity. And like, could we just get a tiny little sliver of trauma somewhere?
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, could we see something close to devastation? And it's such a bright candy colored world, and this feels weird to say, like, I want it to get darker. But I know the show would be able to take something like that and do something really beautiful with it.
Yeah, it's not that I want it darker. I want more death, blah blah blah.
No, but you don't want it to be gritty, but you want there to be areas where it has more
weight. It has some of the decisions.
Yeah.
Something like that would be nice. But unfortunately, 6 Feet Under, in my opinion, just devolved into a show about who's fucking who. So
I think I remember hearing that. Like, it just got kind of soap opera-y towards the end.
It was always I feel like it was always kind of like that, but just the themes in the plot lines was about who's dating who and who's having sex with who, and it was just like, this is not what the show is about. Why is this even I don't care about any of this. So they had a really fantastic plot line in season 1, and they just dropped it and never went back to it. I was just like, I want that. That's what I want. I hate when shows do that. But I digress. I guess that wraps us up now.
Yeah. I think we've reached a good stopping point. We've recommended other things. We've talked about what we love about the show and what we wish it would have lived to do more of.
Exactly.
I think the show had...
Let me open up my
notes.
I
think after its 2 seasons, the show tried a couple comic books, and
Interesting.
I don't know how those went over. And then, of course, you're missing so much stuff from the show trying to make it into a comic book. But, I might try and track those down sometime.
Cool. So it's my turn to do the pitches for this next week of what we will read. I'm also going to kind of do romance, Valentine's Day stuff, because that's something that's outside of my comfort zone.
Good.
And it would be really weird if I didn't do it and just left Melissa to be the only one, because this episode is coming out on like the Wednesday, or like a week or so before Valentine's Day, so it's not even on Valentine's Day. Mine is a little bit more closer to Valentine's Day. So 3 pitches, as usual. I got a comic book, an anime, and a manga. Actually, I think a comic book and 2 animes.
Oh, okay.
Actually, because I decided that last one, I was like, it's gonna be 20-something episodes. No. So pitch number 1, Spider-Man Blue.
Oh.
This is a graphic novel all about Spider-Man, probably I guess not probably, since I already know, but kind of in his early years. This takes place after the death of Gwen Stacy.
Oh, okay.
And I think a lot of the narration is him writing a letter to her after she's dead. and just kind of spilling his guts to her and being like, I loved you. You were the first woman I loved. Now I'm with Mary Jane, so on and so forth. So a little bit more on the sad side, but still romantic in the sense that he's writing a letter to the woman that he once loved. So that's pitch number 1. I will say, though, that there's other books in, I guess, what is kind of called the Color series.
Okay.
There's Daredevil Yellow, Hulk Gray, and Captain America White, and then Spider-Man Blue. I've read Hulk Gray and Daredevil Yellow, but I have not read Spider-Man Blue yet.
Okay.
And it's Jeff Loeb and Tim Sale. They're the creative team. I really like them as a creative duo. They've written and drawn one of my favorite Batman books, The Long Halloween.
Okay,
it's
yeah.
Fantastic book. So that's Spider-Man Blue. I'm interested in reading that one, pitch number 1. Pitch number 2, however, is I think I recommended this back on an episode when we did Kids on the Slope.
Okay.
I think it was one of the, hey, if you like that, you should also check this out. This is called Your Lie in April.
Yeah.
It is a manga, but I wanted to pitch the anime. I believe it's only 12 or 13 episodes, and it is about a young boy who is a concert pianist, and he is very very strict about, like, I need to play thing. I need a plaything. I cannot speak. That is not the type of relationship we are talking about. He is a concert pianist, and he is very much about playing sheet music as it's dictated to him. Like, that's how the music was written, so that's how you have to play it. And along the way, he meets this girl who's a violinist, and she's a very free spirit, just kind of play what you feel. Yeah. I don't need sheet music. I'm just gonna make this beautiful sound. And they become friends and start doing concerts together. And I will stop there in fear of spoiling things, but it's this push and pull of like him getting out of his shell, but also kind of finding out some troubling news about her. So that was an interesting one. It's also kind of sad too. I will warn you on that. My last pitch number 3, I've seen this around. I haven't seen it. It's an anime called My Love Story. Oh. I have no idea what it's about or anything like that, so I'm going to pull it up right now on Wikipedia and see if we can't figure this out. From what it looks like it's this girl and a guy. It seems like the guy's a little bit older. I don't know. I have no idea what's happening. My Love Story, 2 exclamation marks.
Very exciting.
Yeah. This is My Love Story is a Japanese romantic comedy manga series written by Kazune Kawahara and illustrated by Aruko. The manga was serialized in blah, 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 blah. The story follows Takio Goda, a tall and muscular student who doesn't have much luck with women, as every girl he likes ends up falling for his best friend, who is charming and good-looking. This all changes when he saves Rinko Yamato, a petite, shy girl who, above all other expectations, falls in love with Takio, beginning a unique love story. So it is a manga, but I wanted to watch the anime, which is 24 episodes. They're half an hour long, so they should fly by pretty quickly. It's a fairly recent anime. I think it's from 2015 is when it was coming out. So I'm 4 years old now. But I haven't heard anything, but I've heard it like within conversation. And I've heard that it's pretty funny.
Okay.
So that is pitch number 3. Only one I have seen is Your Lie in April.
Well,
So pitch number 1 was Spider-Man Blue, pitch number 2, Your Lie in April, and pitch number 3, My Love Story.
I definitely want to go with Spider-Man Blue. I've been waiting for something like this because I've read Spider-Man in other things. I've never read a solo Spider-Man title, and he is known for having these great loves of his life. And I feel like I don't know enough about comics to know what those stories should be. Like, oh, well, if you want to learn about him and Gwen, you read this book. And if you want to learn about him and MJ, you read this book. Like, it seems to be big generally, but there aren't, like, specific stories. And finally, someone brings me, like, if you want to read the romance about Spider-Man, it's the specific story. It's that one. So thank goodness. And this sounds really fun because it gets to have both of them in there. I like that.
Yeah.
I like that it's a period in his life where he's with one person and like he's still with MJ and like reflecting on Gwen. Like that sounds nice. It sounds sad, but like a good, interesting read. And I always like superhero stories that are a little bit more on the personal side. Because like I know Spider-Man. You don't need to show me him slinging around the city fighting the Green Goblin because I've seen it so many times. Like I'm excited to dive deeper into this thing that I know is also part of his story, but I've seen so much less.
Yeah. Well, hopefully it ends up being pretty good. I think it will be. That is what we will read for this next week. I'm sure you guys can find it at your library or local comic book store.
It is on Comixology Unlimited.
Did you look and see? I
think it is. Yeah.
Look. That would be perfect if it's on Comixology Unlimited. Let me see. Spider-Man Blue with an E. It is perfect. I don't think I even noticed that when I was looking up stuff. So perfect. If you guys have Comixology Unlimited, you can read along with us at home. We hope that is what you guys do. Yeah. Patreon.com/the Whatnauts. If you liked this episode, if you like our podcast or any of the other shows that we do, you can support us for $1. Join us on there. All that money that we get from your support goes back into these shows to help make them bigger and better. Hopefully things like internet cutting in and out won't happen as often, or Melissa getting bigger or smaller, which thankfully didn't happen.
Oh, maybe I've finally normalized
today. So I haven't looked at it yet, but I did think I saw an option that I could do to maybe fix it. Maybe I turned it on and didn't realize it. I don't know. We'll see. I have no idea if it's actually going to help or not, but we'll see. I'll experiment, and hopefully you guys can stick with us. Give us your life savings, all that good stuff, you know. These episodes of the Whatnauts Review Show usually come out on Wednesdays. If you want to get them early, Patreon is the way to do that. So go ahead and sign up for $1, and you guys can start getting some cool rewards for that. That being said, Melissa, where can the cool people find you baking all sorts of pies and stuff? Cool. You guys can find me on Twitter and Instagram at YoKyleSpringer. If you guys want updates with this show, it's at the Whatnauts on Twitter. And I guess we hope to see you guys next week for Spider-Man Blue. Enjoy it. We will see you guys next week. Adios, guys. Bye.